Hello and welcome to our tutorial. So in this tutorial we're going to take this little scene here and we'll just, what are we doing, Shift F, and so this is going to be sort of our FPS sort of environment. Now this is purely just a quick look through. This is a really simple model or kind of environment and we're going to be taking this into VR or into FPS in Unity, and what we're going to look at in this tutorial is making an arm, a hand rig that's going to go in front of this this camera, and in the later tutorial we'll look at bringing that into Unity and setting it up. So I'll save this here and we'll start a new blend file. And so I'll just delete this cube and we'll look from the top and we'll add an image, a reference image. And I'm going to bring in from my desktop this hand image here. Okay, so we're not going to worry about scale or anything just at the moment. And we're going to make this here very quickly. Make kind of a crude version of it, and then we're going to append this into the other file. We'll just set it up as a sort of a starting block in Blender, and then we'll look at in the next tutorial importing the whole thing into Unity. So if this is my reference image, I'm just going to start building the hand nice and quickly. So I'm going to add, actually let me just turn on my keys here so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to add a cube. And I'm going to start with the top of the hand, so I'm going to scale this down, press G, move this over here and go into wireframe mode, and I'm going to scale it, and this is going to be the top of my index finger, and I am going to extrude this back here, scale it up a little bit, and we are going to very crudely make each digit. So I'm going to use Control or quite a bit here to try and get the geometry, extra geometry in the right places. So we'll need more geometry on either side of the bend for each finger or each joint, and that'll just make the animation much more fluid. This is obviously a box, so we will do that, scale it on Z, and we'll loop cut it horizontally and scale it on X. And now that we've done that, we can realize that the whole thing is too wide, so we'll scale it on X and bring it in to about there. So that's my first sort of digit. Now I need to delete this vertex here or I'll end up with internal geometry. And we want to sort of duplicate this, so I'm going to press L and then Shift D. Bring this over here and rotate it. And we'll just try and position these components. And the same here. And the same down here. Okay. Move that in a bit. And we will do the same again. We'll Shift D and reposition these ones. Now this image that I'm using I just found on Google, and as this is for a simple educational video, we shan't worry about commercial licenses. But if you were to use this as a texture, you would have to go and get permission from whoever owns it. And the last one. And we're nearly there. I'll scale this up a little bit. And then do the same here. So that's sort of the easy bit. Although hands are fairly easy. So the next thing we want to do is make the thumb, and we will do that here. Now we're going to delete this bottom piece here, and I'm going to rotate this around. Now we haven't added in any nails yet, so we're not going to be stuck here. We haven't committed ourselves to an orientation yet, so the fact that this is sideways won't actually make any difference at all. And oops. Okay, so we will add in another loop cut there. Scale that up a bit. Okay, so that's basically my thumb. I'm going to turn off this reference image and just like sort of join these together. So I'm going to use the bridge edge loop tool to join the fingers. And okay, and now if I turn this back on now, there are many methods that you can use to I suppose to make make a hand, but normally what you're trying to do is match geometry up here. So you've already made a torso, or it might have 25 or 55 or whatever number of verts in a wrist or a forearm, and you may have to match it back so that you're not having 150 verts at the end of your wrist and then the end of the forearm has 15. So, and obviously it depends on what level of detail you want to make. If you want to make a really detailed model with hundreds or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of verts, you can go and do that. This is going to be for a really simple kind of low polygon game, so I'm going to try and keep this as simple as we can, and too much geometry makes it harder to animate anyway. So I'm going to take these 4 verts here on the top of each finger, and I'm going to extrude them back. I'm going to try and place them as if they were on the sort of the top of each sort of knuckle, and I am going to raise them slightly on the Z-axis. And then after that, I'm going to take, and we'll do this on the top first. So I can take these sort of 3 intermediary pieces, and I'm going to extrude them backwards. And each one of these I want to scale. And we're going to try and fill this in here. So press F, and same over here. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we're trying to keep quads. And sort of my methodology here is I'm going to end up with 4 here. And the same over here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And that kind of reduces the amount of geometry that's pouring back down through the hand. And that'll make the whole thing just a little bit easier to manage. And face there. So now we have, I'm just going to select the side here, and I'm going to extrude it back so it matches this set of geometry here. Once and twice, and then we'll try and link up with these 3 here using the bridge edge loop tool. Do the same on this side. I'm going to select these 3, and I'm going to extrude them back here to match this line of geometry, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 basically to here. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have some sort of correlation between both sides of the hand. And if that is the case, then I have the same with this. So I'm going to deselect these guys. So I just want the, and the ones underneath are selected as well. We don't want them, not for now. So we'll have to do the bottom of the hand in a moment. So I'm going to extrude these back, scaling them down slightly. And I'm going to, we'll worry about the kind of the vertical positioning shortly. Now we could argue that we don't need some of this geometry. Okay. So this is quite simple now. We're trying to join these together. So we've selected 5 there. We're going to have their corresponding 5 here, and we'll use the edge loop tool again. Now it's hard to kind of see all this because we've done it all in a wireframe, but yeah, when it clicks together, it'll, you know, won't look brilliant, but will be a good way along our journey. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll press F. So let's go back to solid mode. So that's our hand at the moment. You know, far from perfect. We do want to add in a subdivision surface modifier. We'll select everything. We'll go smooth faces, and like so we haven't quite set this up completely yet, but you know, we're not in too bad a position. We still have to do nails, and we still have to do the palm of the hand, which is what we're going to do next. So let's kind of take a similar tack. So we're going to take these here, and we're going to extrude them out. Now we've already sort of set the amount of geometry we're going to need, so we need to sort of position these accordingly. Now we don't have to worry about being kind of raised. If anything, we have to kind of go the other way. So there's a slight sort of indentation, so the hand kind of curves inwards. I can immediately fill in these side ones. And then I can take the same approach I had on the top side of the hand, where you're taking these verts here. So let's just see, you have them all selected. And I think I do. And we'll extrude them back. And again, we're going to scale them down. So it's going to move them into position here. fill these in. Any little black lines or anything we get are probably to do with normals not being connected correctly, and we can fix all of them. If that is our only worry, then we're doing well. And I have selected an extrovert there, I think. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that one there. We don't want that one. And okay. So all we have to do now is sort of fill this in as we did above. So we've 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to extrude back, and scale it in, move a little bit in here, and extrude it back, scale it in, and then we will rotate it slightly on Y, and extrude it back. Oh, hang on. So move it back here. And 2 more, so extrude it back, scale it in, extrude it back, and scale it in. Okay. So now it is quite literally just joining things together. Oops. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and use our bridge edge loop tool again. And do the same over here. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we have a mismatch there. So let's just do that. That's not right. What have I done incorrectly here? Okay, let's undo that. So let's just do this by hand. So 1, and 2, and 3, and I just have lost my mind. That's all. Oh, so it was all good. And face. Okay. And what we'll do is we'll turn off the empty, and we'll select these 3 here. Turn it back on, and we will go 1, 2, 3, and 4. And these 1, 2, 3 need to come in a lot further, so it's a lot more rounded than the upper part of the hat. And then we're going to do the same on this side here. So 1, 2, 3. Again, we'll try and match the amount of geometry we've put on this side. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we'll try and take the kind of edge of the top and the bottom and move it further in. Okay. So here we can repeat the technique we used below, where we basically make a quad from that. And I'm going to do the same on this side here. So this slightly forward, this slightly back, and this slightly forward. quad. And then that means that we've only really got 2 of these. So if I extrude that out there and scale it down, and up to here. So we've got quite simple geometry here to line up. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we can edge loop that, and then do the same on this side. Now this still needs a tremendous amount of work, but this is our starting point. Okay. Now we can fill this in here. Oops. And then same over here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so we're going to use roughly the same technique here. So I'm going to extrude this and scale it, and extrude and scale, and then we can just bring that back. Okay, so let's just turn this off here. And this is our, kind of rudimentary sort of basic hand here. Now we've got a hole in the middle of it. So why did that happen? I think that is purely a normal issue. So we'll go mesh, normals, recalculate outside. No. Okay, so what have I done? Oh, I've got a rogue vertex. Oh, anyway, that was it. It's a unnecessary vertex, and that's just, I don't know why that's there. Okay, so it needs a lot of love and care. It's quite kind of boxy in places. So we'll have a look at maybe how we would make, again, this is a low polygon hand. We're looking at, what have we got, 2000s verts. So I'm going to try and keep this at about 3,000 or 4,000 for now. We can always come back and sculpt it and do all sorts of wonderful things with it. So just like as a simple technique to make a nail, so we're going to take these 4, extrude and scale, and we're going to bring it down a little bit, and then extrude, scale, down a little more, extrude, scale, bring that up, and we'll rotate that. And so we have a sort of quite a rudimentary nail. Now we can put a loop cut on that, scale it in a little bit. So we'll try and follow that roughly for the rest. So we have, that was rotation. So extrude, and scale, and bring it down a bit. Extrude, and scale, and move it down on Z, and extrude, scale, and bring it up on Z, and rotate it slightly. So not a anatomically correct nail by any means. But it'll give us approximately the right shape. We'll do the same here as our last one, and then we'll move on to the thumb, which is similar but just slightly different. Okay. And we'll do the thumb. So it's the same sort of selection, but it's going in sideways, that's all. So extrude and scale. Okay. Now, just a couple of basic sort of, so this area of your hand, it's going to turn on proportional editing, so we can make some sort of crude but large sort of amendments to the hand without having to reinvent the wheel. Okay, so now what we're going to do is just a very sort of simple technique. So we're going to take all of this and we're going to unwrap it. We're going to go project from view. And the reason I'm going to do that is when we go in here, if we use the image we've already brought in, this should be, I won't say perfectly aligned, but it should be perfectly aligned. So let's just scale this up. And we may have a little bit of work to do to get it perfectly aligned. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So what we'll do here is we'll add in, I'll just go to look dev view. So I'm going to split this hand in half, which is probably not a good technique for an FPS game because the hand will be, you'll be looking down the thumb. But we'll just do this just for now. So we'll add this in here, and we will. So that's us there. So we're going to again project from view, and we can put the mouse over the hand and press L, and that'll only select the top. So I can move that over here and scale it up. Try and position it. Okay, so that's not too bad. And now we can go down here, and with our mouse over we can press L, and then this is the bottom half of the hand. Now there's tools here to help us in this situation. So this is obviously, we've projected it from the top, but we want to flip it. So I can go mirror on X. Now this is not perfectly aligned, so we will have a little bit of work to do here. but it's not so bad. Okay, and then we can just by hand sort of fix the rest of these. So I'm just literally going to use the tools that you would normally use in the 3D viewport just to put these in the right place. Now there's a couple of important things to sort of point out to you. This is quite a flawed process. The first thing you should notice is the lighting on the top of the hand and the bottom of the hand are very different. So we're going to get quite an interesting result. So the hand will look sort of two-tone. It'll have a brighter color on the top than it will on the bottom, which is, you know, not desirable. Some people's hands are like that, but in this instance here, it shouldn't be like that. Okay, so one more. So that's our UV map. So we have no material, so we will use the generic or default material. We'll call it hand, and we'll very quickly go into shaded view, and there's our hand there, and we will add a texture. So we'll add an image texture and connect that to the base color and select our hand. And you can see here the two-tone sort of feeling that, or effect that we get, which is far from ideal. But what we can very simply do is we can go, into Photoshop or something and match them up if we wanted. Now, so if that is our hand, so let's just out of crudeness here, we're just going to take this and extrude, turn this off, extrude, and then we will extrude and rotate. Extrude and oops, I did two extrusions, and rotate and scale it up, and we will take all of this and we'll add in arm, and we'll just give it a simple, we'll make it a dark kind of blue, and we'll just hit a sign, and we'll bring that back there. Okay, so that's our arm, and we're going to bring that in to be part of our FPS setup, and we will append it in. Now we need to rename these. This is, we'll call this hand, and I have my cap lock on, I think. So, and we can, so when we bring this into Unity, it won't really make a big difference where the origin of this hand is. What's going to be important is the origin of the armature that controls it. So we will select it here, and we'll go Shift S, selection to cursor, so you can see that the origin is at the tip of the finger here. So I'm just going to go GY and place that there, and then make a very simple armature. So I'm going to go add armature, and we'll say in front, and rotate it 90 degrees, and go into edit mode. So that's going to be to my elbow. This is going to be forearm and my hand. Now I'm going to extrude a bone out of here, but then I'm going to detach it from the hand. I'm going to use this for my fingers. So I do want it to be the child of that bone, but not connected. So we'll call this bone here arm, and this one will be forearm, and this will be hand, and then this will be, so we want its parent to be hand, but not connected. So if I go to wireframe mode, we can see, or we should be able to see, there should be a dotted line between them to show there is a relationship. So it's, okay, well, we'll ponder that in a minute. So we will move that. We'll call this P1 for Pinky 1. And we want this, you can see where the geometry is, so we want this to bend on the geometry. So this will be P2, and this will be P3. We'll take these three here, and we will duplicate them, and then reposition them and rename them. Okay, so this will be, we'll call it F1 and F2 for finger 2 and F3. And we'll duplicate them. And we'll call this for middle finger M1, M2, and M3. Nearly there, and duplicate those guys. And we'll check that they're aligned on the sort of horizontal axis, and we'll call this I1 for index, and I2, and I3, and then finally our thumb. And we'll call this T1 and T2. Now, we should be in modeling doing this. So there's my rig. Oh, and we can see my dotted lines to indicate relationships. So we should really save this. So we'll go save as, and we'll call it, I don't know, FPS arm. Okay, so we just need to connect these together now. So we will select the mesh, then select the armature, and we go with automatic weights. What should have happened here is we should have a vertex group for each bone we've created, and then if we have this selected and go into pose mode, we'll see how successful the that was. Okay, so that's not too bad at all. I'm just going to very quickly, this blue is killing me. There we go. So, so let's just give it a very simple animation. We'll be using, actually we won't, there's no even need for us to do this here. We'll animate it in the other file. So this is at the moment just called Armature, so we'll call this FPS arm rig, and inside of that is our FPS rig, and inside of that is our arm, etc. Okay, so let's just save that, and we are kind of finished in many respects, but we're going to go back to our original blend file, which is here, and I'm just going to look from the top and go into wireframe mode, and where is my camera? Here's my camera here, so I'm just going to select my my cursor, and I'm going to append my other file here. So I'm going to go to this one here, FPS arm. I'm going to go to object, and the object I want is the FPS rig and the hand. I don't want the empty or the camera or the light, so I'm just going to append them, and they have come in up here at the origin, not at the cursor. And so you can see they're very big, so we're going to scale them down. We will move them up, rotate them 180. Ooh, so we'll select the skeleton, oops, and we'll rotate that 180 degrees. We'll rotate it sideways, and we'll look through our camera. Here it is here. So we will bring it back towards us. Now we don't have to set this up perfectly because it's we're going to redo this in Unity. But we can do a very quick animation here. Before we do that, I'm going to make this the child of the camera. So we will select the skeleton and shift select the camera, Control P. So now when we, if we go into rendered mode, if we go Shift F and we start looking around, we have our hand here moving with us. And we'll just take, actually we'll leave that there for now. So let's do a very quick animation. Okay, so we will go back to frame 1, and we'll go to pose mode, and we will turn this a little bit, and I'm going to turn on auto IK just for, that'll make my life a bit easier. And let's see, what are we going to do? So we'll bend these in a little bit. I think, oh, fantastic. Okay. So we will rotate that down quite a bit and then bring that back up, and then bring that way, and that way. Okay, so I'm going to select all of them and insert keyframe, and we'll make this sort of like an idle cycle. So we'll bring ourselves to the end of our animation, which is 250 frames, and we will keyframe it a second time. So it's going to be on a loop, and then say halfway through we will give just a small kind of movement. Nothing too radical, just to kind of indicate that we're alive. Okay, I'll select all of them. meant to be there. Okay. So let's go back to that frame and do that again. I put the keyframe on the I'll show you what I did. I selected down here and not up here. Okay, so we will do that slightly again. Select it all, and location, rotation, and scale. So it's only a small movement. Okay, and we may decide that it's just slightly too high. So we'll go back to object mode and we will rotate this on X, and then we'll press play. We'll select our armature and we'll turn off in front, and we will press Shift F. And then we can sort of walk through here, FPS style, and you can see I rotated that back far too far, and the scale is wrong, but we get the idea. Okay, so we're going to leave it there for now. So there's lots and lots still to be done. But nothing insurmountable, and that's not a bad start to where we will eventually get to. So okay, all right, so we'll leave it there for now, and we'll work on building this into in the next tutorial, taking something simple like this and bringing it into Unity, and we'll build on weapons, etc. after that.